the shadows, down low. You don't know what I'm going through, don't know what I'm going through. It's down low, down low. You don't know what I'm going through, don't know what I'm going.
Yo, what's good, TPO Nation? Welcome back for another draft analysis video today. And on this one, we got the Lileepool FC, coached by Nico. And this is a pretty interesting team. Like, I can't wait to actually go through it. So, first off, we got Scizor. Scizor is pretty dope. I think it can be used for a whole bunch of different things. But this set, I'm thinking it might be like actually a good Dynamax target. Once you get a Swords Dance up and just start firing off dual wing beat max airstreams, it's actually really strong in my opinion. But honestly, Scizor doesn't need Dynamax to sweep. If it gets a Swords Dance up, all of a sudden those Technician Bullet Punches and Technician Dual Wing Beats are going to be extremely strong. But it does get a few other things to use for Scizor. It gets like U-turn for momentuming out. Morning Sun, oddly enough, I did not know Scizor got Morning Sun. Knockoff's always a good move for it. Some other things like Superpower could be decent on it if you just need that power for something. But, Scizor doesn't have the most expansive moveset, but I don't feel like it really needs it. It's really strong all on its own. With Technician boosting Bullet Punch and Dual Wing Beat is pretty strong with 130 base attack, 65 speed, not the best, but when you're firing off priority Bullet Punches, you don't need your speed, you know what I mean? So Scizor going to be a pretty good physical attacker all in all, I think, for the FC. And then we move on to Gastrodon East, because East is beast. And we've seen Gastrodon put in a lot of work last season on the Tracers team, and it's no surprise. It's got water immunity with Storm Drain, leftovers for some passive regeneration, and with Scald, Earth Power, Recovery, and Clear Smog. It's going to be kind of an annoying Pokemon to work around. Clear Smog stopping Pokemon from setting up in front of Gastrodon, Scald letting it burn physical threats, Earthquake, Earth Power for another good stab damage, and Recover just to make sure that Gastrodon's here for the entire game. So Gastrodon does get a few other things, but there's not a whole lot else you'd want to use on it. I mean, Ice Beam's pretty sick. That's just about it. Maybe Toxic or Yawn for some cheeky shenanigans there. Icy Wind could be interesting. But all in all, I think it's a really decent Pokemon, really nice wall. And no surprise, Water Ground, one of the best typings in the game. And this Pokemon is definitely proven time and time again that it is a wonderful abuser of that typing. We move on to Gengar, and I think Gengar is an awesome Pokemon. Obviously, losing Levitate is a little bit of a downside a little bit ago, but I would argue that it gives it more niche abilities to clear Toxic Spikes, which is pretty sick. I love the Choice Specs trick set, which is pretty dope, because if you want to, you can trick Choice Specs onto a wall to stop it from recovering and other things most of the time, really limiting possibilities on Pokemon like that. But if you don't, you're firing off Specs boosted Shadow Balls, Sludge Bombs, and Dazzling Gleams, and I think Gengar is really strong for that. You could use a G-Max Gengar, but honestly I don't really see that coming out too often, just because it's nice to trap your opponent in there, but I mean, when you're already firing off a strong 130 base attack, you're probably just going to end up killing them anyway. So trapping them in with you isn't too big of a deal. I could see its niche applications, but all in all, I think just an all-out Specs attacker with Gengar is where it's at, man. As we look through here, we see a few other things it can use, like Clear Smog. Definitely could be useful. Energy Ball, I know Gengar also gets Giga Drain, it gets Focus Blast, so you can take your chances with stuff like that. But that's just about it that you'll see on Gengar. It's just a strong special attacker. Will-O-Wisp and Thunderbolt could be also niche uses on there. But all in all, Gengar's a really great Pokemon, real fast, real strong attacker, coming out from Gen 1, and it's never looked back. It's been an awesome Pokemon, and I feel like Lileepool FC is going to make a good use of this Pokemon. And we move on to probably one of the best legendary birds, in my opinion, is Moltres. And I love Moltres because it's really good on defense and offense all at the same time. So you can run moves like Fire Blast and Hurricane for some decent damage, but also with heavy duty boots and Flame Body, it can come in and ignore hazards. Flame Body being able to let it take physical attacks such as like fighting type moves and possibly burn the opponent, and Roost and Defog to roost off any damage it takes, and Defog to clear hazards for the rest of the team. I think overall Moltres is a really good Pokemon for supporting with defense while also firing off really strong offensive attacks with Hurricane and Fire Blast, because when they hit, they're gonna hurt. And then as we scroll down through here, there's just some other moves you can use. You could also go Air Slash and Flamethrower if you just want to make sure that you hit your moves, which is fine. I totally respect that. If you don't want to get caught by a Roost by a ground type, you could go for I do believe this thing gets Morning Sun. Yeah, it does get Morning Sun. So while you do sacrifice half of your PP, you don't have to risk getting predicted by roosting in front of a ground type. So I definitely believe that could be some interesting moves for you to use. But overall, Moltres real solid pick, I feel like, for the FC. Not a whole bunch of other stuff it could use. Mystical Fire being a pretty good move to drop a special attack on other things. Solar Beam could be interesting for a Sun matchup. But overall, Moltres, solid Pokemon, does what it does really well. We move on to another Pokemon that is kind of situational, I would say, is Linoone. And actually, I forgot to add Belly Drum onto the set. So, obviously, Belly Drum's Linoone's kind of a one-trick pony. Belly Drum, Citrus Berry. I'd argue Quick Feet is probably the better thing to use. You could use Gluttony to make sure you get that citrus back, but chances are they're probably going to hit Linoone, so after Belly Drum you'll probably be under a quarter HP if you're not dead. But Quick Feet could be used. Gluttony's also good, just if you think your opponent's going to switch out or whatever. But to be honest, Linoone is very hard to use. Just because even after a Belly Drum with only 70 base attack, you'd actually be surprised that anything with a resist is not going to fall to extreme speed. So while Linoone does have like a niche use as a late game cleaner, it's not the most threatening Pokemon out there. And when you see Linoone come out, you should already know what it's going to use. But I do have extreme speed, Seed Bomb, and Stomping Tantrum on here. Like, it does have a few other moves you could use, I suppose. But all in all, it's an okay Pokemon. You could throw Play Rough on there. I think I saw Gunk Shot up here, yeah, but you don't really want to risk missing a move. So those moves are definitely very risky to use. I feel like Stomping Tantrum to worry about Steel types, and then Seed Bomb for like bulky water. I feel like Linoone probably has the best moveset it might have week to week. Unfortunately, not much else. You could run Play Rough for like the opposing Dragon type, but honestly, Linoone, you kind of need to support this Pokemon with like some entry hazards, just wearing down your opponent, so Linoone can actually sweep. Just because with Belly Drum, extreme speed's not going to be able to kill everything in most situations. But Linoone's still a good Pokemon. It's still a threat. You have to make sure if you're facing this thing to pack some kind of out to it, such as Priority or something like that, because well, actually, you can't even run Priority, so you just need something that can live a hit from Linoone, which isn't too hard to make, but Linoone can still threaten some teams in certain positions. As we move on to another Pokemon, we have Hitmontop. I do like running Assault Vest on Hitmontop just because it frees up the leftovers for the Gastrodon. But Mach Punch, Bullet Punch, Fake Out, and Close Combat are okay moves for it with the Intimidate to drop Pokemon attack. You could run certain other things, like you got Bulk Up on here, a lot of other moves like Earthquake, so it's got decent moves all around. It doesn't have the deepest move set as well. Of course, this can be used as a rapid spinner, but all in all, you know, Hitmontop is decent for putting a little chip out on the opponent. It's not the strongest thing, it's not the fastest thing, but it's there to support by clearing hazards. It's there to support by getting priority chip on Pokemon. So Hitmontop's a pretty decent utility support Pokemon, absolutely. I'd say Intimidate, dropping physical attack is really nice. But all in all, Hitmontop not the biggest threat out there, but it does support the team, and that's always a decent mon to have to get rid of entry hazards, because that's probably going to play a big part in the TPL Season 3, I would imagine, just like it always has. We've always seen the predominant use of Toxic Spikes and Stealth Rock, those being the main ones. So as we move on to the next one, we have Raichu. Now I kind of left the item free on Raichu because you could use a plethora of things. You could use Specs, you could use Scarf, you could use Life Orb, as well as you could really have Raichu do a few different things. I got Charm, Fake Out, Thunder Wave, and Volt Switch just here to showcase some of its moves that it could use. But obviously it's a pretty decent special attacker, 90 in special attack, 110 in speed, and I do pack this Raichu. You can use Static for the paralysis for contact moves, which is pretty dope, but he will have access to the Alolan Raichu as well. I'm not going to get too into that Raichu because it's kind of more of the same, to be honest, but Raichu does have a lot of good moves. Like Extreme Speed is okay, but it has other moves like Nasty Plot, Thunderbolt, so it can set up on people. It's got Surf, another interesting move. Maybe not the widest move pool in the world as far as attacks go, but it does get some really good support moves like Yawn, Charm, the Thunder Wave, like I said earlier. All in all, it can be a really annoying Pokemon to try to deal with. It's pretty fast, it hits decently well, so definitely you got to be looking out for this Pokemon because it can be annoying and it can punch holes in your team if you're not careful. So yeah, Raichu pretty decent. And next we're going to move on to Kingler, and Kingler being a Season 1 champion. Unfortunately, I wasn't here in Season 1, so I don't quite understand the power of Kingler, but I figure they probably ran something along lines of this, maybe a Life Orb Sheer Force set with Crab Hammer being like the debut move, and then Double Dance with Swords Dance and Agility would knock off just as another support move. Now this thing can Dynamax, it can Double Dance on its own, it can be interesting, but I think it's very niche. Your opponent really has to just like sit in front of this, but I think Kingler could get chances to set up in front of walls that can't clear its status conditions. Can't clear its stat changes rather. And with 130 base attack, 75 speed, none of those things are bad. Like very exceptional attack, matter of fact, and like not really good speed, but after an agility it's basically doubled, so then all of a sudden this crab's really fast. I could definitely see Kingler putting in some work. I don't know what its G-Max move off the top of my head does, so that's could be something that we might come out, but I haven't really played with Gigantamax Kingler. So that's the team pretty much. Kingler gets a few extra moves, a few nice coverage moves, but nothing super crazy. Like we do see superpower, but you don't really want to lower your attack and defense on this Pokemon. There's not a whole lot for it to do, but pretty much this thing just wants to set up and smack things, which I can respect. I could definitely see maybe instead of Swords Dance, like if you know you're going to Dynamax this thing, like go ahead and run the Superpower or maybe Brick Break just to get the Max Knuckle. Because I could see this thing agilitying outside of Trick Room. Agilitying outside of Dynamax and then going for Knuckles, Knockoffs, and Crab Hammers later. So overall, okay Pokemon. So looking at this team, it's very interesting. Like, we do see some good support with Moltres and Gengar for hazards, as well as Hitmontop. So I feel like hazards isn't going to be something that this team's going to have to worry about too much. Gastrodon is super annoying and super good at taking hits, so that's super dope for it. Also, with it being paired with Moltres is really good pairing there for Moltres to be able to survive water attacks with Gastrodon supporting it. And overall, I just really like this team. It's threatening, like heck. It's threatening, like it's maybe not the scariest thing in the world. Like Nasty Plot Gengar could get out of hand, or Swords Dance Scizor. But all in all, I think there's quite a few offensive threats on this team as well as support. So I really like how balanced this team is. With that being said, I'll probably give it a 6.5. And I know that seems kind of low, but I do punish teams that don't necessarily have like a really strong like offensive threat. Like if I'm looking at this team and I'm trying to look at offensive threats to prepare for, like I have to deal with Gengar and Scizor, and to be honest, those aren't the worst things in the world to hit. Chances are any damage that lands into Gengar is going to stay on Gengar, and Scizor does kind of find it hard to roost at times. So while these Pokemon are threatening, they're not the craziest things to plan around. So I think I'm just going to give him a 6.5. But this is a solid team. He could prove me wrong, and he could definitely put in some work with it. But you know, just some of the niche support like Linoon in the back just has me worried about the effectiveness of this team. As I kind of look at shared weaknesses here, all in all, everything's covered for the most part. Scizor is covered by Gastrodon and Moltres, so there's not too much to worry about there. Gastrodon's grass weakness is covered by Scizor, Gengar, and Moltres, so some pretty good team synergy going on as far as I can see. So, you know, while this team does look out for each other, I just... you know, I could definitely see this team falling prey to some of the more crazy Dynamax threats we have running around, like Cinderace, Salamence, and the like. But overall, a decent team, and that's why I'm going to go with the 6.5. So I'll catch you guys in the next video. I'm Ace Trainer Ryan. Peace.